No.
Give me 1 second.
That's why I wrote my report the way I did. So the way I was on. That's all I can say is just something.
That's really not looking up.
Exactly.
Excuse
So
my
that's why
language.
that's why I'm letting you know that now. I'm not gonna be as much help to you.
Coming.
I'll put all this. My supervisor had to write a whole like notice and everything about this type of stuff.
I shoplifting. That's not that bad. That's alarming. I'm not sure what to say about that. Which one of you has Mario Wiggins? Yeah. What is it bond? I'm not saying.
No.
There's no bond? That I shot him?
Yes.
How much is the amount? You're kidding. I'm blown away.
I know, it was a guy gets stacks, so it's kind of expensive.
Usually that means that it's really bad judge.
Oh, yes.
Bad judge, strict judge. We don't have any bad judges.
Yeah. Well, it's about me. Okay, so that could probably gonna be not or it could have been.
It was the amount. It's a couple.
So he doesn't have any previous stuff?
He does.
How about top of it?
That's fine. But I'll do that and honestly stay with the sex. Now check in just so straight.
LT, we got all the inmates there?
We got ready, Judge.
All right.
Sure.
It's first, so I can take
Ms. Patton, we got any officers that need to go first?
Yes, so I was talking to the public defender, Mr. Rhodes, and I think him and I have come to an agreement about position 9. He does need to speak with his client about it. So we could start with him. I also have 2 officers here. One on Mr. Dunn, who is position
2?
and the other for Mr. Johnson, one of Mr. Johnson's cases, which is position 7.
Okay. All right, well, I guess he can go back there and we can start with Mr. Dunn, right?
Mr. Dunn.
Okay.
I mean, he can go talk with his client. We can start with Mr. Dunn.
Your Honor, Mr. Dunn's case being handled by the conflict defender's office. I don't believe we have, Mr. Hull is on the line. I wasn't looking at the camera. Never mind.
Okay, yeah, he's here. All right, you want to get the officer up there for Mr. Dunn and Mr. Rhodes can go talk to his client.
Officer Needham.
That way we can keep it moving.
Go ahead and take the stand.
Raise your right hand for me. Do you swear in front of the testimony given the court today the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, until we get the defendant out here, could you state your name, spell it for the court reporter, please?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm Officer Charles, Charles, Needham, Needham.
All right, stand by. When we get Mr. Dunn out here, we'll go forward.
Your Honor, do you mind if I keep my jacket off again for this set of hearings?
That's fine. Absolutely. I know it's hot in there, so.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Lang, feel free. If you're too hot, you could take your jacket off also.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I think we also have an announcement on position 9. We can just get it done
Okay.
quickly.
All
Well,
right, what is,
the state has consented to a good bond in this case. And I asked Mr. Rhodes about it and speak on what your client said. You can just come up here.
Sure.
Good afternoon, Judge Manning. Can you hear or see me? Good. Yes, I'm
can't see
representing.
you, but I can hear you.
That's fine. I'm representing Mario Liggins. The state has made an offer of a $5,000 good bond. Stay away from the incident location, which I believe was Phipps Plaza, and an ankle monitor, I believe, in exchange for a waiver of preliminary hearing. I don't have any waiver forms here on me.
They're up there on the bench. If you go up to my bench, look on the left-hand side, the farthest left-hand side by the witness, there should be a stack of them right there. You could reach over. You should be able to grab one. Like a stack of loose papers. There's probably a few over there.
I do not see any.
On the far left as you're looking at it.
Okay. There's a folder on the defense table to be.
Yeah, I know Judge Ray keeps them. We'll find some, Judge. But yeah, that'll be a
Oh,
waiver.
I was going to say, okay, there should be some up there because I got a stack. It'll be on your left all the way to the side, just some loose papers.
It's still those papers.
Okay, is this a consent bond that you're going to do? Or you're going to put it on the record so that,
We can draft the order, Judge, if need be.
okay, make sure you put, the same thing for the conditions and make sure you put basic life necessities.
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Did you want to bring him out and tell him or just tell him?
I just spoke with him very briefly. He's aware, so I don't think he needs to be brought out.
Okay, just email me the order, okay?
Yes, Judge.
All right.
Your Honor, may my officer be excused from
Uh,
that case?
Yes,
Officer
ma'am.
Maxwell?
Right, stay safe, officer. Thank you so much for coming. All right, let's see, this is.
Thank you for coming.
Mr. Dunn. This is position 22 CP 214839, 171 days without indictment, entering Darquez Dunn, entering an auto or a motor vehicle with intent to commit a theft or a felony financial transaction card theft and financial transaction card fraud. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Yes, Your Honor. Hi, Officer Needham. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Where are you currently employed?
I currently am employed with the City of Lawrenceville Police Department.
Okay. And at the time of this incident, were you employed with the City of Lawrenceville or were you employed elsewhere?
I was employed with the City of Sandy Springs at the time of this incident.
Okay. So you were employed with the City of Sandy Springs. How long had you been previously employed there?
Since February of 2016.
Okay. So some years.
Yes.
Okay. And how did you become aware of the defendant in this case, Mr. Dunn?
Yes. So on the date in question, January of 2022, I was our primary entering auto and auto theft detective with Sandy Springs. And I was working a case where an entering auto happened on Lafayette Drive in Sandy Springs, where there were two black males seen on video exiting a gold Dodge Caliber and then committing an entering auto. Those males were then subsequently seen on video at the target at 5570 Roswell Road, making several purchases of gift cards with the credit cards stolen in the entering auto. I, through my investigation, was able to identify the owner of the vehicle and then one of the other defendants. And I actually ended up sending out a BOLO, a Be on the Lookout Metro-wide, with a photograph of who I would later identify as Darquez Dunn. The photograph was from the target surveillance footage where the entering auto, or I'm sorry, where the fraud occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And Detective Robert Lindsay with the Decatur Police Department reached out to me and provided me with some photographs of Darquez Dunn, and he said that he currently had a case against Dunn and that was who was in my video. I was able to look at photographs of Dunn from Investigator Lindsay's investigation and then from our surveillance footage, prior booking pictures and driver's license picture, and did determine that he was a match, so I obtained arrest warrants for him.
Did you carry out the arrest warrants?
I didn't execute the arrest warrants. I don't actually know who ended up arresting him on the warrants.
Okay, so
I
let's
was never notified of that.
let's go back to the entering autos. You said it was a string of entering autos?
So there were, I just want to double check on here.
Oh,
really
please
quick.
do.
So I know that there were multiple cases involving these subjects, only one of which was assigned to me.
Did you ever speak to any victims?
Yes.
Okay.
So the victim in this incident here at 33 Lafayette Way,
Mhm.
Mr. Guzman,
Mhm.
he ultimately reported that he had a black iPhone stolen from him. He provided a serial number. We were never able to locate the phone. He stated that there was approximately $100 stolen from his vehicle, that he had a Wells Fargo Visa debit card stolen from his vehicle as well.
Did that black iPhone have tracking on it, like Find My iPhone or?
It did, but the iPhone was turned off and it was unable to be tracked.
Okay. Did he state that he had given anyone permission to use his car or have the keys to it, anything like that?
No, nobody was given permission to access his vehicle.
Okay, did he indicate to you that that a window was broken?
So let me make sure on the method of entry that they ended up doing.
Objection, it's bleeding.
Right.
I'll rephrase it.
So I believe.
Just go ahead and tell me what Mr. Guzman said to
Yes.
you.
So based on my recollection, and the initial officer didn't write the method of entry in the vehicle, but I do believe the vehicle is unlocked. And they entered into the vehicle. There was actually video footage from across the street showing such.
Showing such as in?
Showing the entering auto occurring, the vehicle pulling up, the two males exiting the vehicle, and then committing the entering auto. And so Mr. Guzman, he advised that those items were stolen and that he had gotten notifications from his bank that his credit cards were being used at the Target in question and then a Valero gas station across the street.
Did Mr. Guzman tell you that he had given anyone permission to use his card?
He's told us that nobody had any permission to use any of his cards.
Did Mr. Guzman tell you that whether or not he himself had been to Target?
He told us that the transactions were not him, so that he had not been there.
Did he tell you if he reported those to his bank?
So his bank actually alerted him first because of the unusual purchases.
Okay. So were you able to use the video, or were you able to view the video that you saw, that you just mentioned?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and what did you see on that video?
So in the video from the neighborhood, it was a Ring doorbell camera. It showed the two males, one of which I ended up identifying as Darquez Dunn, the second of which I ended up identifying as Mr. Richard Lawrence, committing the entering auto and then going back into this gold Dodge Caliber. And then the video from Target showed both Mr. Dunn and Mr. Lawrence walking into the Target store together from that Dodge Caliber, conducting transactions where they purchased gift cards and then walking back out of the store together and getting in the Dodge Caliber.
Okay, so let's go back to the Dodge Caliber here. Did you ever figure out who owned that vehicle?
Yes.
Okay.
So we were able to get a license plate on the vehicle from license plate readers that we were able to match up with surveillance footage.
Okay.
The female that owned the vehicle, Miss Robinson, I made contact with her over the phone and did some phone interviews with her. And she ultimately just tried to hinder the investigation. I told her on a recorded line that I know that there was a male subject driving her vehicle with another male in the vehicle, and I want her to tell me who's driving it. And her response wasn't a denial. She told me that I was lying and that the only person that drives her vehicle is her.
That you were lying?
Yes.
Okay.
So she said that the only person that drives her vehicle is her and that she doesn't know what I'm talking about because no one else drives her car. So at that point, I went ahead and determined that she was lying to cover up the facts of the investigation and obtained obstruction warrants for her. She was arrested at her place of work in Sandy Springs and her vehicle was located there and it was impounded to our headquarters where I conducted a search warrant on the vehicle.
The vehicle that was located at her work, what vehicle was that?
That was the Dodge Caliber.
The same Dodge Caliber that you've been mentioning a couple different times. Okay.
Correct.
You said you obtained warrants for her arrest. Did she ever indicate to you that she knew the defendant in any way?
She was completely non-compliant even when we tried to speak to her, except when I listened to her jail calls. She immediately, the first person she called was Richard Lawrence. And they were discussing, sure, I've got it notated in here when she called him, and
Richard Lawrence, that's the second male you've mentioned, right?
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So they had a conversation that led me to believe that they were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Okay.
Which would lead me to believe that he might have been the individual in the vehicle. So I looked him up, got a physical description on him. He, generally speaking, matched my description of my male subject, other than Mr. Dunn, the second suspect. And then I got a criminal history on him and determined that he had a significant history of financial transaction card fraud and entering autos. I ended up getting a search warrant for the AT&T phone records for Mr. Lawrence's phone number, and those phone records placed him at the time and place of the entering auto. So that's how I got the arrest warrants for him.
Okay, so we've got Mr. Lawrence. How were you able to ID Mr. Dunn?
So once I got Mr. Lawrence's arrest warrants and had executed a search warrant on the vehicle and was not able to determine anything that would point me toward Dunn yet, I went ahead and released a BOLO Metro-wide with photographs from the video surveillance at Target. It was at that point that Investigator Lindsay with Decatur Police called me and told me that my suspect that I was looking for was Darquez Dunn and that he's got open cases against him as well.
Did she ever show you a picture of him?
Yes, he did.
Did you take a look at the picture?
I did, and it was definitely Darquez Dunn.
Would you recognize him today?
I would.
Is he in the courtroom?
Yes, he
Everybody
is.
removed their masks.
Would you please identify Mr. Dunn with an article of clothing and let me know if he's on my left or my right?
Yes, Mr. Dunn is on your right, and he's got a white T-shirt under a Fulton County Jail jumpsuit.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified Mr. Dunn, the defendant.
Record so reflects.
Okay, so you stated that you were listening to the jail calls between the alleged co-defendant and his maybe girlfriend. You're not sure. Did they ever indicate anything about the alleged incidents?
No, they didn't. She was very upset with him when Miss Robinson was very upset with Mr. Lawrence when she called him and was basically blaming that her car was impounded and she was arrested because of him, but they didn't specifically discuss the entering auto or the fraud or anything like that.
But her demeanor was?
Her demeanor to me pointed that she was blaming him for this because he was using her car. That was the way that I was able to interpret the conversation.
Okay, so let's go back to the financial transaction card theft.
Yes.
So you stated that you watched some video surveillance of two suspects entering into a Target, correct?
That's correct.
When you watched the video, was Mr. Dunn in them?
Yes, he was.
How were you able to recognize him?
So in the video, I recognized the two subjects. One, Mr. Lawrence, was easy to recognize pretty quickly after seeing the photos of him. And then Mr. Dunn was wearing a Atlanta United COVID style mask. I ended up finding that actual mask in the Dodge Caliber when I executed a search warrant on it. It's been photographed and collected. So you all should have the record of that. And Mr. Dunn was wearing. And once I had zoomed in on the photographs, one thing that stuck out to me a lot about Mr. Dunn was his gait, his body shape, and his distinct eyebrows because they arched very closely to the bridge of his nose. Recognizing that I had only a picture of him with a mask on, I was looking for the same things in the footage that Investigator Lindsay showed me and was able to match that up very clearly.
Okay. So You stated that you looked through Mr. Lawrence's phone records. Did you ever look through Mr. Dunn's phone records?
No, I was never able to get a good phone number from Mr. Dunn to get phone records for him.
Okay. When you were watching the video footage into the Target, how many males were in it?
There were 2.
And Mr. Dunn was walking into the Target.
Correct.
Okay. The charges for Mr. Dunn include entering auto, financial transaction, car theft, 2 counts of that. Did you charge him with those based upon the information you learned from your investigation?
Yes, I charged him with that based on the, so the financial transaction card theft should be the 1 count and then the fraud should be the 2nd count.
Oh, I guess the calendar's wrong.
And so the financial transaction card theft was for the card that was stolen out of Mr. Guzman's vehicle. And then the fraud charge was related to the purchase of the gift cards at the Target.
What kind of card was used for the Target?
It was a Wells Fargo Visa debit card, I believe. I've got documented in the report the exact card. Yes, it was a Wells Fargo Visa debit card.
And whose name did it have on it?
It had the name of the victim, Luis Guzman.
And so once again, he never gave permission for anyone to have his card.
That's correct.
Okay. So the Dodge Caliber, you said you did a search incident to impounding it, correct?
I ended up actually just getting a search warrant.
Oh, okay.
And handled it at headquarters rather than processing it in the parking lot there.
What else did you find in that Dodge Caliber?
So when I went through the Dodge Caliber, I found a, let me go back through here. So I found some documents that were like vehicle repair documents and some insurance documents with Mr. Richard Lawrence's name on them. I found a Georgia ID card and a UPS employee ID card for a female, I cannot pronounce her first name. It's Nastassja Richardson. I was never able to determine if she was a victim of an entering auto or anything. And then I also found that that Atlanta United COVID mask.
The COVID mask that you mentioned was on the Target
Yes.
camera footage. Okay. Did you ever listen to any jail calls from Mr. Lawrence or Mr. Dunn?
No, I did not.
So you only listened to Ms. Robinson's and that's how you heard Mr. Lawrence?
That's correct.
Okay. Who carried out the arrest warrant?
So I don't know. Mr. Lawrence, I think, was arrested after I left Sandy Springs, and I was never actually notified that Mr. Dunn had been picked up on my warrant. So I don't know the circumstances of his arrest.
Is the defendant the person you saw in the Target video cam?
Yes.
Is he the person you also saw on the ring cam from the initial entering auto?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Based on having viewed his previous booking photos, driver's license pictures, the surveillance footage at my incident locations, and then comparing them to Investigator Lindsay's information, his video photos, et cetera, from his case, and his positive identification of Mr. Dunn, that's how I was able to make my determination that Mr. Dunn was my suspect.
Okay. So going back to the victim, he called 911. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you spoke to him?
So I didn't respond to the initial call.
Mhm.
I spoke to him after I had received the case and began the investigation.
Okay. And I believe you already mentioned to the court what you spoke about with him.
Yes.
So I won't ask that again just for the sake of not repeating it twice. I have no further questions.
All right, Gross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, officer. My name is Brian Olive. I represent the defendant, Mr. Dunn here. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, officer?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking if Mr. Dunn.
No, I'm asking,
Yes,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay. So you mentioned that there was a Ring video and there was video from Target.
Yes.
Okay, is that the only video available?
So there's those two videos and there's traffic management cameras that we recorded that we used to track the vehicle. But I was not able to get video from the Valero where the victim's other card was used at. So that's why I didn't make any charges on the Valero purchases.
Okay, and as far as the videos are concerned, is it only the Target video and the Ring video that you're actually able to see the subjects outside of the vehicle?
That's correct.
Okay, and you mentioned that Mr. Dunn was wearing a mask, a COVID-like mask?
Yes.
Okay, so even though you said that you matched him based on his eyebrows and his build, you were never actually able to see Mr. Dunn's face during any
That's
of this?
correct.
Okay. All right. Have you ever made positive identifications like that before?
I have.
Okay. So you mentioned a lot that tied Mr. Dunn's co-defendant to the case. But the only thing that you found that you believe tied Mr. Dunn to the case was the mask and the Dodge Caliber.
That's correct.
Okay. And has all that evidence, the video and the mask and everything, been preserved?
Yes.
Okay. All right, no further questions.
All right, anything else on direct?
Nope, not at this time.
Anything else for this officer?
Nothing from the state.
All right, thank you, officer. Stay safe out there.
All right. Thanks, Your Honor. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good day.
All right, go ahead with the argument.
You want defense to start?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Based on the questionable identification that he never actually saw his face, I mean, there are numerous men out there that are built like Mr. Dunn. The officer was never able to establish another connection between the owner of the car, her boyfriend, and my client. The state never established how they were related, whether there was any phone calls between the two, whether they ever hung out together, none of that. So basically the only identification was an officer believing that it's him based on a picture with a person with a mask on compared to some mug shots and driver's license photos and such, Judge. Also, I believe that the state failed to establish that this was in Fulton County. But with that in mind, I would ask the judge to not find probable cause on these charges and dismiss all charges. Thank you, Judge.
Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Your Honor, I think probable cause has been established. The witness did testify to seeing Mr. Dunn not only in a picture, but in video twice. He also stated that he described it as a pretty distinctive mask. It wasn't just a regular black mask, was found located in the car of which was used. I think that probable cause has been established. It's a low burden, as Your Honor knows. Also, I would add that the defendant himself, actually, I'm going to finish there. Nothing further.
All right, what's your response to him saying that you didn't establish Fulton County?
In Sandy Springs, the officer mentioned it was in Sandy Springs. Sandy Springs is in Fulton County.
Right, I know where it is, but I didn't hear you establish Fulton County. All right, so yeah, I'll have to dismiss it for that. Now, Mr. Olaf, I'll give you an option. You can have if they indict it, then rearrest him. You can still have the dismissal. I don't care, or we could just UJR.
I would have to ask my defendant what he would prefer. I can explain that, I guess. Mr. Dunn, if
I'm standing the questions you just asked. I really dismiss it. Let's come back and like.
he wants to dismiss it altogether.
All right. And that's fine, Mr. Dunn. Hold on. But you just know if they, and I just do this for your sake, okay? Because if they indict it and they do another charge, they could issue a grand jury warrant. You could sit in jail. It could go another 171. The same thing could happen. So And it's absolutely, you're right. So I'll dismiss this. Best of luck to you, sir.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. I believe that concludes my business for today. Judge, may I be dismissed?
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
All right, you do the same.
I think I got you this evening. I'll see you this evening.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look.
I think I do. Maybe not. But if not, have a good weekend.
All right, you do the same, Judge.
All right, Ms. Patton, who's got next?
We can do Mr. Johnson. I only have one count from him. Mr. Johnson.
And that's position 7.
Yeah.
You got any more officers in there?
Yep. But I haven't ID'd them. If you give me
No,
a
that's
quick
okay.
second. Yeah.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
Detective Quinn, which case are you here for?
Aaron Sparrow case, Aaron Malik Sparrow.
What is it? Say it one more time.
Aaron Malik Sparrow, under case number 2022 out of South Fulton.
Okay, so if y'all could- just 1 second. All right.
Position
Quinn.
3, Judge.
Oh, it's okay. I'm saying I can barely hear you. So Detective Quinn's here for position 3. Just so you know, and he's online just in case. All right. So can you bring out Hassan Johnson?
Oh, maybe not, but Aaron Sparrow has 3 cases, Judge. So I'm not
What's the
quite
case
sure.
number, Mr. Quinn?
My case number is out of South Fulton on, it's 2022-018937.
No. Okay. Let's see. What is he charged with? How about that?
Okay, he's charged with felony attempting to elude.
No,
Possession.
one is for
Hold on a second. Okay. The felony claim to the hold on.
Pratt.
Okay.
And then the other is for Sparrow, but it's just for this one.
All right. Hold on. So
And then I guess.
Detective Quinn, here you go. If y'all can hold on 1 second so I can talk to Detective Quinn since he's online. I can't really hear him. So I've got one where he's charged with burglary and theft by taking criminal damage. Is that yours?
No, Your Honor, my case is.
Okay, hold on. I got one more. Hold on. I got one for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon.
No, Your
Okay.
Honor, that's not mine.
I got schedule 1 or 2, MDMA, firearm by a convicted felon, drug related use and possession of marijuana.
Yes, that's mine.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So he's here for position 5.
5. Okay.
So you have officers.
Yeah, because
Yeah, 5.
I had a lot of same defendant.
Okay, so we got Hassan Johnson. You, Mr. Johnson? Thank you,
The
Mr.
battery
Johnson.
position 7.
Is this 6 or 7?
7.
This is 7. All right. This is 23 CP 217438, 65 days without indictment, battery, family violence, subsequent conviction or prior forcible felony. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Give me 1 second, Your Honor.
Is the officer here for the other case for Mr. Johnson?
No,
Okay,
not at this time.
all right.
I didn't staple my stuff, so now it's taking me forever to find it.
That's okay. Detective Quinn will get with you just a second, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
It looks like on this case, he's got no bond as of April the 5th.
Okay.
All right. Whenever, Ms. Patton, I'm ready. Whenever you are.
Okay, you've already sworn this officer in?
Yes,
Oh, raise your right hand, officer. You swear a firm testimony about to give the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
yes, I do.
All right, state your name, spell it for the court reporter.
It's Investigator Joseph Latosky, Joseph, last name Latosky.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Okay, where are you currently employed?
The City of Atlanta Police Department
And how long have you been employed there?
since December 2010.
Were you employed there then October of 2022?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And how did you come in contact with this defendant?
So I worked the domestic violence unit, and on October 12th, Officer Anderson was dispatched to the incident location, 2591 Etheridge Drive, apartment A210, for a dispute that the victim, Miss Cordisha Welch, and the suspect, Hassan Johnson, were involved. The victim stated during the interview of the officer through the body camera footage that the suspect and her got into a dispute about an individual that had come over to give her money prior in the day. It then evolved to Mr. Johnson punching said victim in the face with a closed fist. I reviewed the body camera footage, and in the footage, you could see the injury to the victim's bottom lip.
Okay, and where did, you said Officer Anderson?
Yes.
Where did he report to?
So he filed a report.
No, I meant what location did he come to?
Yeah, that was the 2591 Etheridge Drive Northwest. It's apartment A is in Adam, 210.
That's in Atlanta?
Yes, Fulton County.
Okay, so you said you were able to view the body cam footage and you saw an injury to the victim. In the body cam footage, did the victim mention exactly who had harmed her?
Yes, so the officer was able to pull up a driver's license photo through his computer in the vehicle. And that's when the victim possibly identified Mr. Hassan Johnson via his Georgia ID. And it was all caught on body camera.
Okay, sorry, I was just thinking. So he was able to pull up the driver's license and the victim positively ID'd him there. Did she indicate what had caused this incident?
Yeah, there was a male friend that had come over to give her money prior that day. They were in bed and they started conversation about it. I guess in the report, it said Mr. Hassan grew upset about the incident, and that's when he had assaulted Miss Welch.
How did Miss Welch's demeanor appear on the body cam?
She seemed pretty upset, distraught at the scene via the body camera footage.
Okay. You said she had an injury. Was it swollen, bleeding?
It appeared to be a bruise to her bottom lip when she opened up her lip. She did state that she had bruising in more of her personal areas, but I wasn't able to view that on body camera footage.
Let's be specific. What are personal areas?
So if you mind if I just look at the original report that the officer wrote.
Sure.
It just says that a large bruise on her left side. However, it was in her personal area.
Okay. Did Miss Welch ever state the relationship between her and the defendant?
Yes, they have a child together and they live currently at that address together.
Did she state how long they had been living together?
No, but they do share a child together.
Did Miss Welch ever indicate that she had a restraining order against the defendant?
No, she did not.
Has she ever indicated that there had been previous violence against her and the defendant?
Not that I recall.
Did she state specifically, I know you said hit with a closed fist, how many times? Did she state how many times?
Not that I recall. In the report, it's not given as well. It's just that she was struck in the head with both hands with a closed fist.
Multiple times or a single time?
It doesn't state.
You don't remember that from the video?
No, I don't.
Okay. You stated that Officer Anderson pulled out a driver's license. Where did he get the name to pull out a driver's license of?
It was given by Miss Welch.
So he pulled up the driver's license through his system, or she handed him a driver's license?
No, so it was through his system. She gave him the suspect's name and date of birth. He then was able to pull it up on his Motorola laptop in the vehicle using Omnix.
Did the victim confirm that that was who had assaulted her?
Yes, on body camera footage.
Did she ever get medical treatment? Do you know?
She refused it at the scene.
Did you follow up with her after?
No, I did not, ma'am.
Did you do the arrest for Mr. Johnson?
No, I obtained the warrant and I flagged it. And I do not have when he was actually detained and arrested under the warrant.
Did you ever listen to any jail calls from Mr. Johnson?
No, I did not.
The body camera footage that you viewed, that's uploaded to evidence and submitted for evidence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Were there any pictures taken of the victim's injuries?
Via body camera footage, the officer did.
Was the person who was arrested in this courtroom?
Yes, he is.
Please identify him, whether he's on my left or my right and with an article of clothing.
Yes, he's wearing a blue jumpsuit with the white undershirt to your left.
Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Mr. Johnson.
All right, record will so reflect.
Are you post-certified?
Yes, I am.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about your credentials as a law enforcement officer?
So I also do animal cruelty, and I've received several training of that, but I was assigned domestic violence back in August of 2022. And just given my experience with handling 911 calls when I was in FOD, that's my experience with domestic violence.
How many domestic violence incidents have you dealt with? You can give me an approximate.
We have a lot. I can't really say how many cases I've dealt with.
But a lot.
Yes.
A lot.
Extremely a lot.
More than 10?
Greater, yes.
More than 20?
Yes.
More than 50?
Yes.
Okay. Did you charge and submit an affidavit for arrest for Mr. Johnson based upon the facts that you learned from the victim and from the victim on body cam and from the victim and your interactions with Officer Anderson regarding such?
Yes, so I never had any interactions with Officer Anderson. I just went off his report and the statements, the interview that was conducted at the scene by him with the victim. And given her statement and her visible injuries, I felt it met the qualifications for battery family violence.
Did she ever tell you, oh, you already answered that, so never mind, let me not ask that again. The body camera pictures of the bruised lip you said had been submitted towards evidence?
Yeah, it's on evidence.com.
Is there anything during your investigation into this incident that you discovered that we have not covered today?
No, not to my knowledge right now, no.
Did the victim ever indicate that Mr. Johnson was upset, as in angry?
Yes, he was upset about the male friend that had come over prior that day.
Did she indicate whether he was yelling?
It escalated to him then attacking her when they were in bed.
Did the victim indicate where Mr. Johnson had gone?
No, he wasn't on scene when the officers arrived.
Did she indicate that she had called the police?
To my knowledge, she did call 911. She said that she had fled to a neighbor's house. I'm not sure if the neighbor was the one that called 911 or if she called 911 from the neighbor's house.
Did you ever speak to the neighbor?
No, I did not.
Did you ever listen to the 911 call?
No.
Nothing further.
All right, Cross.
Yes, Judge, one moment. Officer or Detective Latofsky, correct?
Yes.
Great. So did you have any personal interaction with Ms. Welch at all?
No, I did not.
Okay, so really it was Officer Anderson who would probably know best about statements that were made at the time.
Well, it's all caught on body camera. So the whole time the interview was conducted from his arrival, everything's caught on body camera footage.
All right. Was there any other officer with Officer Anderson?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. So Officer Anderson arrived at this location on Etheridge Drive at about what time?
It was early in the morning hours. I think it was around 01:33 is when the call came up. And his report time, I don't know if it was that time that he arrived or if it was 03:25.
Okay. And do you know if the 911 caller was Miss Welch or the neighbor or someone else?
That I don't know. Just that he was dispatched to that location for a domestic dispute.
Okay. That location, is that Miss Welch's residence or was that the neighbor's residence that the Officer Anderson reported to?
No, that was their residence.
Okay. So by the time the officer had arrived, Miss Welch had already returned to the residence?
Mhm.
Okay. And the neighbor was not present?
No,
So it was just the officer having basically a one-on-one conversation with Miss Welch?
interaction with the victim, yes.
All right. Now, Miss Welch had explained essentially that, she had said that Mr. Johnson had gotten mad about another visitor that was there at the apartment before, right?
Yes.
Did Miss Welch disclose who the identity of that visitor?
No, she did not.
Did she disclose the relationship she may have had with that visitor?
No, other than he had just brought her some money.
All right. And did she say how much money?
No, she did not.
Okay. And did she say about what time earlier in the day that would have happened?
No, she just said prior, the day prior. Because this occurred during the morning hours, early morning hours.
All right. So again, to clarify, the officer reported early morning hours of October 12th, around 1:30 a.m., October 12th, and the visitor would have arrived October 11th.
Yeah, but that's not, yeah, the visitor would have arrived October 11th and the incident occurred October 12th.
Understood. Okay. Did she say about when Mr. Johnson, about what time Mr. Johnson had arrived at the residence?
No, she just said that they were in bed when that conversation had come up and that he grew upset with that situation. And then that's when the victim stated that Mr. Hassan punched her in the head with both hands with a closed fist.
Okay. There was blood on Miss Welch, is that correct?
I viewed the body camera footage a while back. I can't say if there was or there was not.
Okay. That's it. Well, then on direct, you said that there was at least an injury on the bottom lip.
Yes.
And Mr. Johnson was not found at that instant location on that morning.
Yes, he was not at the location when the officer arrived.
Did Miss Welch indicate where Mr. Johnson may have gone?
Not to my knowledge, no. And the body camera, I don't think so.
How is this case transferred to your desk, Officer Latovsky, or detective?
Because the suspect was not on scene, so it needs our officers don't get warrants and flag them. So then the case gets pushed to me and then I review all the statements that were given in the body camera footage. And if I feel there's enough evidence then produced in that interview with the officer, I'll then obtain warrants under the probable cause and go and flag the warrant through GCIC.
In the body camera footage, did Officer Anderson show on the footage the ID that was pulled up?
Yes,
Okay, so you could see the Georgia ID through the footage.
yes, you could.
All right, and again, this incident was from back in October of last year. Do you know of any updates or, any sort of contact or statements from Ms. Welch since then?
No.
Have you tried to reach out with Ms. Welch?
No, I have not.
I'm wrapping up, Judge. Just one moment. Detective, did Ms. Welch indicate that she had fallen anywhere?
No.
Okay. And per your testimony, you said that, she had said that Mr. Johnson had hit her with fists in the head.
Yeah, that's how the officer, yeah, that's how the officer wrote it. But yes.
All right, thank you.
Anything else from the state?
Yes, just one. Did Ms. Welch on the body cam indicate to you in any other way other than defendant hitting her that she had received that injury?
Yeah, she had stated that that was an injury involved from the altercation.
So no, I'm asking it a little odd. So she said that the only way that that injury happened was through the assault from Mr. Johnson.
To my knowledge, yes. When the officer asked her if she received any injuries, that is what the time that she had folded down her lip and said that that was the injury from the assault.
Okay, nothing further from the state.
All right, anything else, Mr. Rhodes?
No, Judge.
All right, this officer, stay safe out there, investigator, sorry.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead with argument.
Judge is going to go. Judge, I would argue that there would be no probable cause found on this battery charge. The officer testified that there, I guess, was a hit in the head, and I believe the injury was specifically on the lip, and I don't know for sure if there was, a blow that would have been struck on the lip, I guess, of Miss Welch. But yes, Judge, that's my only argument.
All right, what says the state?
State submits on the evidence submitted.
All right, I'll find probable cause. There's no bond as of April the 5th.
All right, well, we're getting a bond on this,
Miracle?
hopefully.
No, I don't.
The other issue is that
This might be another preliminary hearing, so more than one of us do preliminary
I don't know
hearings.
if she'll heal
Or it may be a
on that. So even
different,
if she
maybe
needs
I know
bond
that
on
doesn't help
this,
you.
obviously we need bond on
I'm
that.
sorry.
The hot mic, Mr. Nelson. Careful.
Sorry about that, Judge.
That's all right. For your client. Where's Roberts, pre-trial.
Okay.
There you go. Bostic 3.0, Hassan Johnson, go ahead.
8 cycles. He appears to have an open case out of, what was that? Scratch that. He has a 2021 conviction for aggravated assault out of Fulton County. He does not appear to be on probation for that case. It looks like it was 75 days probation. He has a probation violation from a misdemeanor simple assault from 2019, and nothing further to add. That was the only felony conviction.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Judge. Mr. Johnson would reside at 4265 Shorely Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. That is a separate residence than from where Ms. Welch would reside at the address, the incident location. They do, yes, share a 6-year-old child. And Mr. Johnson is, of course, keen to be able to get out and be able to take care of that child. He moved specifically here to Georgia to do that 6 years ago. So he wants to be a present father in his child's life. He would, one moment. He would be able to work again once he's out of jail. He was a forklift operator, and he would be able to go back there to, maintain a stable life for himself and his family. Judge, he does have, of course, another case that is here on the calendar that is also in no bond status. We would ask, of course, for bond to be set on this case as well. But even if that is the case, I'm not sure if the court is willing to hear bond on the other case. Just as a point of clarity, are we hearing bond for both cases?
Did the officer show up, Ms. Patton, for position 6?
No.
So what's the, I'm gonna go ahead and make the, what's the status? Subpoenaed? Who is it?
Give me 1 second.
Okay. Appears that's a deputy, Andre, well, at least it took the warrant, Andre Hudson.
Your Honor, I don't have anything I know we subpoenaed him, but I don't have any documented excuse as to why he's not present here today.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Rhodes.
Judge, in lieu of that, several things going on. I would ask for dismissal on the other case, just as a matter of that. But still, Judge, in terms of bond, I would ask for bond to be set in total $10,000. On both cases combined, I should say. If the court is not inclined to dismiss position 6 for lack of the officer being here. That's it. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Patton.
In addressing position 6, case number 23 CP 217437, the state would ask for a reset. It doesn't appear that this has been on a preliminary hearing before, a one-time reset so that I can see kind of what's going on. Do you want me to address bond on that as well, or?
Sure, you could go ahead and do it. We had a reset date in June. Ms. Watts, what was that date again? I'm sorry, I put those papers away. Let's see. 20. Date was June 20. Well, that was the 9th.
22nd.
Is that good for you, Mr. Rhodes?
We'll make it work. Yes, that's good.
Okay, is that 1 p.m. or 9 a.m., Ms. Watts?
1 p.m.
June 22nd, 1 p.m., one time only, Ms. Holmes. For officer to appear, if you can make sure you put on there that officer did not appear. So we'll give that one reset. So go ahead with your bond argument on the other also.
So for the bond argument on the position 6, 23 CP 217437. This is in a no bond status. The state will defer to your honor's discretion on whether or not to set a bond. We just would ask that a stay away and an ankle monitor be put into place. For bond regarding position number 7, 23 CP 217438. This again is in a no bond status. The state would request that this remain in a no bond status due to the danger to the victim in this case as they live together and share a child. Also, a risk of victim intimidation. Also, this, as read out by pretrial, this defendant has a 21 violent charge, so there's a significant likelihood to reoffend. If your honor is inclined to set a bond above the state's objection, we ask that the bond amount be no less than $20,000 with no contact with the victim, and a stay away and a third party to shuffle their child together. I think they only have one child.
All right. When I was prepping my count, I saw that she was also the alleged victim in the 21 case. So on the 23 CP 217437, Ms. Holmes, both these bonds will go into effect on the 91st day if he hasn't been indicted, okay?
Okay.
So you just hold it, just count off to the 91st day, hold it, or I can sign it. I forget how they do it. Maybe you can ask.
I'll ask.
Yeah, Mr. Douglas or somebody. They usually have me sign it and hold it. And then if he's indicted, you just shred it. If he's not, then put it in place.
Okay.
On the, I could try to count the numbers, but yeah, if you just, today's 65. So
I'll count it up.
Okay, yeah, go to the 91st day. So on position 6, 23 CP 217437 is a $10,000 good bond on theft by receiving stolen property, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 4265 Shirley Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. And like I said, that'll be reset one time for the officer to appear. Position 7, 23 CP 217438. I'm going to make that a $50,000 good bond. That'll go into effect on the 91st day. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 2591 Etheridge Drive, Northwest. A. Adam, 210 in Atlanta, Georgia. No further contact with Cornecia Welch, WELCH. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. You have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical. Employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, the exact location you'll be working, and also basic life necessities. Best of luck to you, sir. And those are both going to effect on the 91st day. So is the officer here for position 1, Ms. Patton? Jaden Tyler?
Your Honor, not at this time, and he was subpoenaed. I do not have a, let me just double check. I don't think I have a written reason as to why he's not present. That's correct. I don't have a written reason as to why he's not present. The state would ask for a reset, a one-time reset, so that we can see what's going on.
All right, go ahead, Mr.
Judge, I'm gonna ask that this warrant be dismissed due to one on prosecution. In the notes, I believe he didn't appear last time either.
All right, let's see. And this officer is, do you need it? You want us to bring him out? Can y'all bring out Mr. Tyler really quickly? Sorry, I get ahead of myself. Jaden Tyler. And then we can bring out Mr. Sparrow. Ms. Patton, was it Officer Quentin Hill?
Yes, yes, Your Honor. College Park Police Department.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right, are you Mr. Jaden Tyler?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is 22 CP 210614, 332 days without indictment, theft by receiving stolen property, and possession of firearm by a convicted felon. Go ahead, Mr. Luamba.
Yes, Judge, I'm gonna ask that this case be dismissed due to these warrants be dismissed due to warrant of prosecution. The officer didn't appear this time. In the notes, it says that he didn't appear last time. Asking for a reset is detrimental to my client. He obviously can't make the bond. If the court isn't inclined to dismiss this warrant due to warrant of prosecution, we asking that his bond be significantly reduced, at least by $20,000.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Patton.
I have no objection to the bond being reduced by $20,000.
So, Mr. Luamba, it's kind of like I told the rest of them. You got a couple things. I can greatly reduce it, or I can dismiss it. But as you well know, and your client may or may not, that they indict it and get another grand jury warrant, then they go back and arrest him. Then it could be sitting another 332 days. So, do you prefer the dismissal or just the at an extremely low bond?
I prefer the dismissal, Judge, so he can get out.
All right. So we'll dismiss this for warrant of prosecution. Mr. Tyler, once again, they could still indict you. They could indict you on this. They could add other charges, issue a grand jury warrant, and Mr. Luamba will tell you they could arrest you. Then you have to go through the whole process all over again. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Best of luck to you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Luamba. I think that's it, right?
Thank you, Judge. Yes. See you later.
All right. Now we should have Mr. Sparrow, correct?
All
right, so it looks like we got Detective Quinn. He's for position 5. Is that the only officer for Mr. Sparrow's cases?
No.
You got other officers beside Detective Quinn that's on here?
I do. They're present in court, so it depends on which one you want to take first.
Okay, well, since Detective Quinn's on his way out of town or whatever, anyway, he's a passenger in a car. We'll go ahead and take him because he's obviously off today. So I don't want to keep him on his phone any longer than he has to be.
Okay.
All right, we'll start with position 5, 22 CP 215026, 161 days without indictment. VGCSA, possession of Schedule 1 or 2 with intent to distribute, possession of MDMA with intent to distribute, possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies, possession of drug-related objects, and possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Let's do the hearings first.
Hi, Detective Quinn. Thank you for joining us on Zoom. Hadn't been sworn in. My apologies.
Raise your right hand, Detective Quinn. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. If you see the court reporter, which right there where it says Bianca Benz, if you see her camera come on, she may need you to make sure you speak up so she can take down everything you say, okay?
You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted now.
Okay, sorry about that, Your Honor. I heard everything you said.
Okay, all right, right now it's got a $55,000 split bond. Go ahead. Ms. Patton.
Where are you currently employed?
I'm employed with the City of South Fulton Police Department.
And were you employed there December 11th of 2022?
Yes, I was, Your Honor.
Okay, how did you come in contact with the defendant, Mr. Sparrow?
I attempted to come in contact with Mr. Sparrow on December the 11th, 2022 at 10:30 hours. I was conducting a routine check at the gas station, which is the Shell located at 3580 Cascade Road. At that time, I saw what appeared to be a hand-to-hand transaction near the gas pumps. Based on my reasonable suspicion, I ran the tag on the vehicle, of which the subject later identified to be Mr. Sparrow was pumping gas. Upon running the tag, he came back as a wanted person. At that time, I was still investigating the subject. He got into the vehicle and he was getting ready to leave the gas station. He conducted a right turn on the Cascade Road, traveling eastbound. At that section of the road, just before I-285, there's a gore in the road. He ran over the median gore. So I elected, based on the safety of the road and the safety of the citizens of South Fulton, I turned on my lights and sirens and attempted to conduct a traffic stop. Do you want me to go through the full spiel, or you want to ask some questions?
Go ahead. I'm gonna come back and ask questions, but go ahead and finish
Okay,
up.
yes, ma'am. At that time, Mr. Sparrow, I turned on my lights and sirens based on the safety of the road and wanted to utilize due regard. So I turned on my lights and sirens to attempt to effect the traffic stop. At that time, he did not stop. He continued up to the intersection of Cascade Road and I-285 southbound. At that time, he was in the far left lane, which is a lane that you're supposed to continue straight and turn left onto I-285 northbound. He cut across two other lanes, of which the light was red, and he continued driving. As soon as he had open highway, the driver, Mr. Sparrow, punched the gas. At that time, he essentially lost control of his vehicle. His tires were spinning. His vehicle swayed from left to right a couple of times, and then he ended up spinning out into the side of the hill, which is on the entrance of I-285.
Did he ever? Oh, go ahead. Oh, I think it's going bad.
Yeah, he froze. Hold on a sec. All right, go ahead, Mr. Quinn. Detective Quinn, you froze up for a second. So go ahead and ask him the question, Ms. Patton.
Did Mr. Sparrow ever leave the car?
He got out initially, and at that point, I saw the occupants of the vehicle, so I knew the vehicle was occupied 3 times. So I got out, attempting to place them at gunpoint. But once Mr. Sparrow jumped out of the vehicle, he made eye contact with me. I told him to stop, but he jumped back in the vehicle. He looked around, jumped back in the vehicle, and he tried to drive off again. But based on, it was a rainy day and the surface was wet. So his vehicle was just spinning the tires.
So he wasn't able to actually drive off?
No, he attempted to, but based on the wet surface, he couldn't drive off. So after he realized the vehicle wasn't going to drive anymore and it was pretty much disabled, he jumped across the passenger side and he ran up the hill and ran across I-285 southbound across to northbound.
Okay, you mentioned other occupants of the vehicle. How many other occupants were there?
There was 2 other occupants. The front right passenger was a Black female identified to be Shakia Evans, and the rear passenger was on behind the passenger side on the right side. His name was Mr. Curtis Bradford.
Did the additional occupants, did they try to flee?
They did not.
Okay, I'm gonna go back really quickly. This gas station where you initially saw them, you said that was on Cascade Road?
That's correct.
Is that here in Fulton County?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
So when you initially, you stated you initially conducted was it a license search? I don't know if I quite heard you.
I'm sorry. It was, I ran the tag to see if I could identify the subject. He was driving the vehicle. I ran the tag to see if I could identify the subject who I believe conducted the hand-to-hand. At that time, I was able to positively identify Mr. Aaron Malik Sparrow by way of his tag. The vehicle was registered to him.
Okay. Why were you in that area in the first place?
We were conducting a crime suppression detail. The area is high for drug sales, loitering, thefts. So we were there to attempt to combat some of the crime that was going on in the area and answer to some of the citizen complaints.
Is it typical for you to run a license plate check based on your observations? Is that typical?
And gathered that something. I'm sorry.
You got to say it one more time. You kind of froze up a little bit. I was asking you, is it typical to run license plate checks?
Only based on an investigation. If there's something that brings to our attention where it requires additional investigation, then that's typically when I'll run a tag.
So you stated earlier that you saw Mr. Sparrow engaged in a hand-to-hand transaction.
Yes, ma'am. I'm currently assigned to the narcotics and gang unit. So that specific situation is what we are looking for when we're out doing crime suppression. We're looking for anybody that appear to be conducting hand-to-hand transactions, anybody that may be breaking into vehicles, anything that's in regards to special operations investigation.
How long have you been on that unit?
I've been on that unit for almost 3 years.
And about how many narcotics incidences have you personally dealt with? And if you can give an approximation, because you may not have an exact number.
Okay, I've been in law enforcement for a total of 12 years. I've been conducting narcotic investigations my whole career. I've been assigned to a unit that deals solely with narcotics and gangs for, as I stated, the last 3.5, close to 3 years, I mean. And investigations, it's hard to say, probably up close to 100 at this time.
Okay. Have you had any training on specific narcotics?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
I have some training regarding narcotic recognition, identification, processing property related to narcotics, undercover investigations, long-term investigations regarding narcotic sales, distribution.
Okay. Let's go back to, you said Mr. Sparrow tried to drive off, but I think you said it was wet, so he couldn't. So you said he fled up a hill. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Once he lost control of the vehicle became disabled because it was wedged against the hill and it couldn't gain enough traction to get away from the hill. So at that time, he struggled to, once he re-entered the vehicle, he struggled to get the driver's side door to reopen. So at that time, he crawled across to the passenger side, climbed out of the passenger door and ran up the hill. The hill it's a fairly large hill, but once you get up the hill, it leads you to I-285 southbound. And you could, we believe he ran across to the north side.
Did you detain the other two occupants of the vehicle? You or another officer?
Yes, I did.
You detained them yourself?
I detained them with the assistance of an additional officer who arrived on scene.
And did you search both parties incident to your arrest?
Yes, I did.
What were you able to locate?
One of the subjects, he had a firearm on his waistband that was registered to him and it was legal. The other female, she didn't have anything on her. She had her purse, but it had personal items.
That's frozen again.
Okay, I detained the two passengers. One of the subjects had a firearm that was legal and registered to him. The second subject, Miss Evans, she had her personal items in a purse, and that was it.
Okay, so just a firearm that was recovered from those two?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you search the vehicle, the one Mr. Sparrow had fled from?
Yes, ma'am. We conducted a probable cause search. Upon approaching the vehicle, once everybody was removed, there was a strong odor of marijuana coming from the vehicle. At that time, we went on to search the vehicle based on the odor, and there was marijuana scattered all over the floor, mostly in the driver's floorboard, but that was pretty much throughout the vehicle. Upon searching the vehicle, we located, and just to be clear, there was 2 black bags. I believe I stated in the report a black backpack, but there's 2 black bags. One was more of a personal bag, black in color. That one was located near the center console on the driver's side seat, containing She,
Oh,
there was an additional backpack.
Detective Quinn? Oh, you cut off
Yes,
at
ma'am.
the driver's side seat. So back up to where you said driver's side seat. You keep freezing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I know this is, okay, the driver's side seat, there was a black, it was kind of like a fanny pack style backpack, the type that go across your chest. And a lot of people put personal items in. That was sitting near the center console, near the driver's side, also on the driver's side seat. And it was containing 15 grams of suspected mushrooms.
You said that was on the center console?
It was near the center console, more so near the driver's seat. So it was kind of hanging over to the driver's seat, but it was right there by the center console.
And that backpack contained?
It was one of the male. Yes, ma'am. It contained 15 grams of suspected mushrooms.
Did you ever send those alleged narcotics off to be tested?
Yes, I did. All narcotics that were located in the vehicle were sent off to the GBI laboratory for additional evaluation. The MDMA, the mushrooms, and the suspected marijuana.
Did you get those results back?
I have not got the results yet, but I did confirm with the property.
Well, once again, Detective Quinn, I don't know if you can pull over because you said you did confirm with and it froze again. If you pull over, it may work a little better. It may go a little bit quicker. If you can get whoever's driving to pull over. If y'all are headed out of town, I apologize. We'll get through this as quickly as possible.
Oh no, it's okay. We'll pull over. That's problem. Okay, is that better? Are you guys able to hear me?
I can hear you. Just nothing's moving on the screen.
Okay, how about now?
That's good.
Okay, I apologize. So there was an additional backpack that was located behind the driver's side seat in the floorboard, directly behind the driver's seat. We located suspected MDMA pills in that backpack. And then the additional, the suspected marijuana was located in the trunk together with the firearm. Approximately 200 grams of suspected marijuana and a FN 509 9mm handgun bearing serial number GKS 0164939.
Did you ask Miss Evans or Mr. Bradford, did they about the drugs that you found?
I didn't specifically ask them about the drugs. I more so I separated them upon them being detained, and I asked them, how did they end up in the vehicle, all that kind of stuff. Did they, I asked them about their personal items and stuff like that. They both pretty much gave a similar story. They said that they pretty much paid for a cash ride, and he was taking them to another location where they were supposed to go to a party. They didn't claim any of the items. The only item that was claimed in the vehicle was by Mr. Bradford, was his weapon that was already on his hip. Miss Evans, she said that none of this stuff was in the vehicle, and the only thing that belonged to her was her purse and her personal items.
Did either of them indicate to you how they knew Mr. Sparrow other than the cash ride?
They said they only knew him. They gave two separate street names. One of them was L, and I can't remember the additional name. They just said he was a person that they knew gave cash rides. And I asked why he ran, and they basically said as soon as I got behind him, he said that he had warrants. So that's pretty much why he was running.
Did they indicate to you anything further than he just said he had warrants?
No, they didn't indicate anything else other than that.
Okay, you said cash rides more than once. So what is a cash ride?
I think it's kind of like an informal way of like utilizing an Uber. He was kind of acting as an Uber outside of the Uber app, and pretty much taking cash to drive people to different locations. stuff like
Did they
that.
indicate that they had gotten into the vehicle with him at the gas station or prior to?
They said that they were at a house where there was pretty much a party going on, and once the party was ended, they were all supposed to go to a club, which everybody was jumping in different vehicles. He offered to take them to the next location in exchange for money.
Did they ever indicate that either of the backpacks found were theirs?
No, they did not. They were clear about this. They were clear pretty much about all items and stuff in the vehicle being his. And the vehicle was registered to him. He owns the vehicle. It comes back to his name. And most of the marijuana that was located, which we found 9 grams scattered throughout the car, but the 200 grams were located in the trunk. So unless they had access prior to, which I can't say, they wouldn't have known about the marijuana in the trunk or the gun.
So how was the marijuana in the trunk discovered?
By way of searching the vehicle.
So was it packaged in anything or was it just loose?
No, it was tied up in a freezer style plastic baggie. It had a large knot on it, and it was kind of like a big bundle. It's common with larger subjects who distribute narcotics.
Was the marijuana located near the gun?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I'm going to go back. You mentioned that Mr. Sparrow told both Ms. Evans and Mr. Bradford that he had warrants and that's why he fled. Did they ever indicate to you that he knew what his warrant was for?
No, they didn't. They didn't really. I don't know. I'm not sure of what their relationship to him is or if they really know him very much at all. But we didn't really get too deep into what it was for because they pretty much were not really wanting to have any association with him. They didn't really. I mean, they were pretty consistent as far as, and they were separated the whole time once they were detained. They were pretty consistent on, where they were coming from and what they were doing. But they didn't really, it didn't appear they had very much knowledge on it.
Okay, when you ran his license plate information, what did you see Mr. Sparrow was wanted for?
On that day, it appeared he had several warrants, but the main warrant that popped up was that he was a dangerous individual and he was wanted for felony eluding police.
In your practice, when you're saying that they're a dangerous person, what does that mean?
Typically, when the system notifies you of a dangerous person, it means they have a prior history. They've been arrested by multiple agencies. They either have high and aggravated charges, which could be felony eluding. It could be weapons charges, narcotics together with weapons, aggravated assault, anything related to dangerous.
And that's a statewide system?
Yes, it is, Your Honor. Yes, it is, ma'am.
Did you ever catch up to Mr. Sparrow?
I did not. Mr. Sparrow's whereabouts were unknown following that day up until he was arrested by Atlanta Police Department on December the 29th, 2022.
Did you follow up with whoever arrested him or with him in the system?
I was notified based on his arrest, and I submitted a supplement based on arrest, notified the department that he was apprehended on charges. However, I did not reach out to the Atlanta Police Department, so it was unknown if he got additional charges or not.
Would you recognize Mr. Sparrow if you saw him again?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I would, ma'am.
Is he in this courtroom?
Everybody could remove their mask.
Is he in this courtroom?
Yes, he is. He had the same hairstyle on that day, dreads with the dyed tips. He's sitting, I'm not sure if he's to your left or your right, but he has on a blue jumpsuit, blue style jumpsuit that's commonly worn in the jail.
You said his hair he had red hair?
I did see the red tips. He had pretty similar hairstyle.
Okay. Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Mr. Sparrow.
All right, the record will so reflect.
Okay. You have charged Mr. Sparrow with VGC SA, possession of controlled substance in Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 with intent to distribute, possession of MDMA with intent to distribute, possession of a firearm or knife during commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies, possession and use of drug-related objects, possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. Did you come up with those charges as a result of your investigation with this case and dealing with this case?
That is correct, ma'am.
The possession of and use of drug-related objects, where's that charge coming from?
The packaging material located in the 2 scales.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. One more time.
The 2 scales that were located in the vehicle, we located 2 scales during the course of the vehicle search.
Where were the 2 scales located?
They were located in the floorboard.
Were there any other items, not necessarily contraband that were found in the car?
Yes, ma'am. There was 2 cell phones.
Did you do any phone records?
I've turned it over to our property and evidence. They're supposed to be downloading the data on the phones, but that's still pending.
Okay. So as of today, you don't have results back?
I do not.
Did Miss Evans or Mr. Bradford ever indicate to you that they were their cell phones?
No, they did not take ownership or claim the cell phone.
Did Mr. Bradford or Miss Evans ever indicate that they were the owners of you said scales or packing materials?
No, ma'am, they didn't claim ownership to anything in the vehicle other than their personal items, which Miss Bradford claimed her purse and Mr. Bradford claimed his firearm that was already on his hip.
Okay, give me 1 minute. Was your body worn camera activated at this time?
Yes, ma'am. There was myself and I believe it was 4 additional officers that arrived on scene. We all utilized our body cameras for the entire investigation.
Did you ever review the footage afterward?
Yes, I did. I reviewed mine, and I'm downloading the additional to add to the case file, but I was able to see most of everything that I needed on my own, and I had prior recollection of the situation.
Okay. That's all been submitted for evidence, you stated?
Yes, ma'am. It's all prepped for the case.
Is there anything else that you learned in this investigation, other than what you've previously mentioned, that ties Mr. Sparrow to those items located in his car?
No, the occupants of the vehicle, I had already identified him, but the occupants of the vehicle also confirmed his identity based on a photo provided prior to leaving the scene.
I'm sorry, the last sentence one more time.
Okay, the occupants in the vehicle, Miss Bradford, Mr. Bradford, and Miss Evans, prior to being released from the scene, they were provided a photo of Mr. Evans. Mr. Sparrow, and they did confirm that is who the driver was and that is who fled from the vehicle. But I pretty much knew who he was. I just wanted to check their see if they were honest with me, and they seemed to be pretty honest throughout the situation.
Okay, are you currently post-certified?
Yes, I am, ma'am.
Were you post-certified at the time of this incident, which was December of 2022?
Yes, I was.
No further questions at this time.
All right, Cross.
Good afternoon, Detective Quinn. Are you able to hear me all right?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Attorney Lang. I represent Mr. Sparrow. I'm going to ask you some questions and follow up on some of the questions that the district attorney asked you.
Okay.
I want to start with kind of jumping forward a bit. When you were speaking to Miss Evans and Mr. Bradford, during your direct testimony, at first you stated that they just repeatedly stated that these items did not belong to them. Then a little bit later, you said they were pretty clear on these things belonged to Mr. Sparrow, but that was information not contained in your warrants or your initial account. So I wanted to clarify, was that just something you were adding, or is that information that just wasn't in your warrants?
When I made that statement, I was just saying that when we were speaking, I was speaking to them about the situation. They didn't specifically say a name or anything, but I had already identified Mr. Sparrow that was the driver. So when I was collecting this information from them, they didn't specifically say name or anything like that. They just stated that they were pretty much confirming that the only thing that was in the vehicle was, the stuff that belonged to them. They didn't. Nobody claimed ownership of anything outside of their personal items.
So just to be clear, neither Miss Evans nor Mr. Bradford ever said in the affirmative, these items belonged to the driver of the car. All they said was these items do not belong to us.
They didn't even say the word items. They just claimed ownership of personal items. It wasn't really a conversation. I asked them where they were coming from, and they were adamant about where they were coming from, and we don't have anything to do with the situation or anything that's in the car.
Okay, so just to dial in on, I guess, what I'm asking. Did either of these individuals ever say, yes, all the things here belong to Mr. Sparrow?
No.
Okay. I want to talk about the fanny pack you said was located on the center console.
Yes,
You
it was laying across. It was across the center console. It was sitting. You know how something could be near the center console, but in between the center console and the driver's seat. That's the position of it.
Okay. The only thing contained within that fanny pack you said was 15 grams of mushrooms, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Then we move to the back seat. Now, the back seat was where Mr. Curtis Bradford was sitting, correct?
He was sitting to the passenger side of the back seat. Yes.
So yes, Mr. Bradford was sitting in the back seat of the vehicle.
Yes.
Okay. And the backpack containing the suspected MDMA was located in the back seat.
And it was in the floorboard behind the driver's seat.
Which would be in the back seat of the vehicle, correct?
Yes, sir. Behind the driver's seat in the floorboard.
Okay. The firearm and some of the marijuana, because from what I'm understanding, you said there was some marijuana found within the floorboards of the vehicle and then a second quantity of marijuana located in that backpack in the trunk, correct?
Yes, sir. There was marijuana scattered throughout the vehicle, which yielded about 9 grams. The additional marijuana was located in the trunk.
Okay. And the firearm was also alleged to have been found within the trunk.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you remember which floorboards you found the scales in? Were they in the front floorboards, the rear floorboards, driver, passenger side?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you said I don't recall? It kind of went out a little.
That's correct.
Okay.
You stated
Yes,
that.
I don't really recall.
Okay, understood. One moment. To clarify, you stated that Mr. Bradford and Miss Evans told you that Mr. Sparrow ran because he had active warrants. That's pretty much what he said. He ran because of active warrants.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. But that was already clear. I already kind of knew that. It was just collecting information.
Okay. I want to go back to before all of this started at the gas station. You said that at the gas station, you ran a tag search on the black Charger because of what you say was a suspected hand-to-hand transaction.
Yeah, it appeared it's common for hand-to-hand transactions at that gas station, and based on my knowledge, training, and experience with narcotics, that's pretty much what I've dealt with for the last few years. I've observed several hand-to-hands, and I'm pretty comfortable in being able to acknowledge when a hand-to-hand has been conducted. But that wasn't the sole purpose of the tag. That was what raised my reasonable suspicion. What resulted in me running the tag and essentially conducting a traffic stop was him being a wanted person. I just want to be clear for the record.
Well, you learned that he was a wanted person after running his tag and generating his name, correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
So the reason for running his tag was the supposed hand-to-hand transaction.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you able to see what type of narcotic was one of the elements of that hand-to-hand transaction? Was it marijuana, cocaine, heroin?
I wasn't able to confirm it because I couldn't get two people at once.
Were you able to see?
When you're doing it, typically when you observe something like that, you'll have more parties in play. But at that time, it was just me. So the only thing I could do was attempt to get the suspected dealer.
Okay, but so when viewing the hand-to-hand transaction, you weren't able to view what type of narcotic was supposedly being handed?
No, I wasn't. No.
Were you able to view the quantity of whatever narcotic was being handed back or forth?
No, I could not.
Were you able to view the quantity of cash that one of the individuals was handing to the other?
Cash is not always used. It's common now for people to use cash out. So I did not see any cash. However, that doesn't mean that there wasn't a transaction that took place. People don't even use. That's ancient these days. That cash is not used anymore.
Did you see either individual involved in the hand-to-hand transaction on their cellular phones in the moments leading up to the transaction?
I don't recall. No, sir.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Anything else on direct? Ms. Patton?
Yep. I'm sorry. I was just reading my questions. I do have one, possibly two. Detective Quinn, did Miss Evans or Mr. Bradford, you mentioned they stated that none of those items were theirs. Did they indicate whether the items were there prior to them getting into the vehicle?
No, I didn't really get too deep into it with them. It was more of a situation where they were pleading. They're like, look, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I don't know what he had going on. I don't got nothing to do with it in that car, basically. It wasn't like a questioning per se with, is this yours? Is this yours? Is this yours? It was more so I was just listening to what they were telling me. And I wanted to make sure that where they were coming from and how they ended up in the vehicle was consistent.
And their stories were consistent?
Yes, ma'am, they were, and they were both separated. One person was near the vehicle that we searched. The other one was at the entrance in a whole nother vehicle.
Okay. So and last one, then I'm gonna wrap up. You mentioned that you observed a hand-to-hand transaction, and that's what gave you reasonable suspicion to run his license plate. did you ever run a GCIC on Mr. Sparrow or a more in-depth investigative report?
Yes, I did. Anytime you suspected a person is a wanted person, once they're in custody, it requires a confirmation, but however he ran. So at that time, I ran what we call a more of an in-depth criminal history once I got to my office. Through our GCIC, which runs it nationwide, and that is what provided me my confirmation that he was indeed a wanted person, and it gave me his criminal history for his prior arrest.
Okay, nothing further.
Mr. Lang,
Nothing further, Your Honor.
all right, anything else for this detective?
No, thank you. I thank you, Detective Quinn, so much for being on Zoom. I understand you are going on vacation. I really appreciate your showing up here to court today, though.
Oh, no problem. Anytime. I thank you all for your patience.
All right, thank you, detective. Stay safe.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so which other officer on which the other case? Do we have one on position 4?
It's position 4.
That's the possession of firearm by a convicted felon.
I don't think so.
She said she was here.
You're the burglary. Yeah, no, we don't have that. Give me 1 second to see. I have an email.
And then we got the other case, and that officer's here on the other one, right?
Correct. He's here on Mr. Pratt.
Oh, all right. So, well, Mr. Sparrow's got 2 more cases. There's not another officer on either of his other 2 cases?
There is one on the burglary.
3? All right, they can take the stand.
Okay.
And then on number 4, while they're taking the stand, what's the status? Did you subpoena the officer?
We did subpoena the officer, Your Honor. I would ask for a request to reset to see if I can further locate where the officer is. See if there's been any disconnect about what's going on.
All right, so that's 22 CP 215025, Aaron Sparrow, 161 days without indictment and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Go ahead, Mr. Lang.
Your Honor, I'm going to move for dismissal for want of prosecution. This case was previously reset due to the officer not being in court. The court gave a one-time reset to wrangle an officer. No officer here today. It was a one-time reset, so we'd ask the court to dismiss for want of prosecution today.
All right. We will dismiss this for want of prosecution. Ms. Holmes, if you'll put that this was the second time that the officer was a no-show, sir, they can still indict you on the possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. So although it's dismissed for today, Mr. Lang will let you know that they could still indict you on that. So, just know that. And this is Jay Carter with APD, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, detective that you got on there, you raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you state your name, spell it for the court reporter.
My name is Kathleen Leonce. First name is spelled Kathleen. Last name spelled Leonce.
All right, we got 22 CP 215024, 161 days without indictment, burglary in the first degree, theft by taking, and criminal damage to property in the second degree. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Thank you. Detective, please pronounce your last name again for me. I don't want to butcher it.
No problem. Leonce.
Leonce. Okay. Thank you for showing here today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Where are you currently employed?
City of Atlanta Police Department, burglary unit.
And were you employed with the City of Atlanta, specifically the burglary department, on December of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been working at the City of Atlanta?
7 years.
Have you been in that specific unit the whole time?
No, ma'am. I was promoted in 2021.
Okay. And with your promotion and taking on this new burglary unit, was there any training that you received?
Yes, I did take training to basic investigative training.
Okay. And are you post-certified?
I am.
Were you post-certified at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So how did you come in contact or become aware of Mr. Sparrow?
On December 4th, officers responded to a residential burglary at 3871 Red Wine Road in Atlanta, Georgia, apartment 2308. And when the officers responded, they met with the locksmith technician who was on scene, who wanted to advise on suspicious activity with the two suspects at hand who called to have locks changed, pretending as though they lived there. So the locksmith at the time thought it was suspicious, but he just completed the job because another technician gave him the job at the time. And once he changed the locks and due to how the suspects were maneuvering through the home, he noticed like they weren't aware of where things were. So that's when he asked for the money for the work. And when he asked for the money of the work, they were not trying to pay him. So due to their demeanor, he left the location and went downstairs. And that's when police were called, when they did not try to pay him for the work.
Okay, so did the locksmith, so you said he changed the locks based upon a call that they needed the locks changed?
Yes.
Did he indicate that that involves some sort of technical process of like taking the lock out, or how does that work?
Yes, ma'am. So he had to remove the old lock and put a new lock in. And at that time, after he placed the new lock into the door, he did not give them the keys because they did not make payment. So that's when he kept asking for payment, he then left the location due to how they were talking to him, and he waited in his vehicle and contacted his manager. And that's when Officer Gunawan was met with him.
Okay, did he tell, did the locksmith indicate what their demeanor was?
He just said they were aggressive as far as when he asked for payment. They said they were just ignoring him and not, trying to deal with him. They were focused on what they were trying to get inside the home.
Okay, you're saying they, so it's more than one person?
Yes, ma'am.
How many people?
2.
Males, females?
2 males.
Did he, so the locksmith is one who called 911, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And he called based upon something
payment.
wasn't feeling right?
No payment for one, and then, that's when we further investigate that something wasn't right.
Did you ever speak to the victim in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And did the victim indicate that they had given a key out, or that someone had permission to enter their home?
Yes, that was one thing he mentioned. He stated that he don't have company come over. It's just him and his roommate. And he does have a Ring camera, and the Ring camera shows the 2 suspects. So the first video that was sent to me, it shows my suspect here in court had a hoodie on his head, and the second suspect, it was a clear face of him, but he wasn't more so dealing with the locksmith agent. It was more so the suspect in court.
So Mr. Sparrow, according to the Ring camera, was the one who was interacting with the locksmith?
No. So Mrs. Sparrow is who gave the locksmith directions on which unit it was, and Mr. Sparrow stood on the end of the breezeway of the apartment unit.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Did the victim indicate to you that maybe a family member had a key?
Nope. He mentioned that no one has keys besides him and his roommate. He don't allow company over. And he was not aware who those 2 males could have been.
Did he indicate who his roommate was?
Yes.
Did you ever speak to the roommate?
Yes.
Did the roommate give out a key or have anyone be able to have authority to enter their home?
No, ma'am. They mentioned that all they do is work and go home.
Did the victim and the roommate, did either of them indicate that they knew who the 2 males were on the Ring camera?
No, ma'am. They were not familiar with neither.
They said they had never seen them?
Never seen them.
Okay, so this apartment complex that you went to on Red Wine Road, is that here in Fulton County?
Yes, that's where the officer responded. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
I thought I heard something barking, honestly. Were there any items that were taken from the apartment?
Yes, ma'am. The victim, Mr. Derek, stated that $5,000 in cash, which was in the safe in his closet, as well as a PlayStation 5, which was the roommate's.
Do you have an idea about how much a PlayStation 5 costs?
5, I'll probably say approximately 600 or more, depending on who you get it from.
Okay, so 5,000 out of a safe.
Yes, ma'am.
And a PlayStation 5.
Yes, ma'am.
Did they notice any other items were missing or displaced?
No, not at the time. That's all was mentioned.
Did you ever follow up with them?
I did.
And did they indicate anything else had been taken or disturbed?
No, ma'am. They were just trying to get update on the case and what was going on.
Did the victim and or roommate ever identify Mr. Sparrow?
No, ma'am. Just the witness.
The technician?
Yes.
Okay, so the technician identified Mr. Sparrow?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did he identify Mr. Sparrow?
On December 14th, a photo lineup was done by my sergeant, not of my unit, but another unit that's in the same building as mine. We got note of these two suspects' name by numbers. Both numbers were provided by the technician. And when I ran it on Accurate, which is a system, both suspects was identified through the phone numbers. They were registered, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So the technician gave you the phone number of the people who had called him.
Yes.
And through that, you ran it through your system. Clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. So you said your technician did identify the defendant through a photo lineup?
Yes, ma'am. On December 14th at 5 o'clock. He met with me at the Zone 3 precinct.
Okay. Did you arrest Mr. Sparrow?
I did not.
Is the person who was arrested in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you describe him with an article of clothing and let me know if he's on my left or my right?
To your right, he has on a blue Fulton County jumpsuit with a white undershirt, and appears to be something over his body.
Okay. Let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Mr. Sparrow.
Record so reflects.
Did the technician indicate to you what would happen while they were in there?
He stated he stood outside of the door while still asking them before he left, but he stated that the way they were maneuvering through the home, it just appeared that they did not know where things were. So they're like kind of searching for what they were looking for. And that's when they discovered the money, I guess, in the safe, and also the roommate's PlayStation.
Did the technician indicate that he saw them specifically go into any rooms?
Yes, he stated that he did see them move. They separated when they was inside the location.
Okay. The safe, do you know what room the safe was in?
It's gonna be in the victim's one, which was Derek Thomas' room.
Okay.
Closet.
Did the technician or anyone ever indicate what type of apartment this was? A 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom?
It was a 2-bedroom.
Okay, 2-bath?
That I don't know.
Okay. The PlayStation, did the technician indicate where that was in the home?
And the room, well, he didn't know. He did not know. The technician could not identify where things were. It was the victim who stated where the items that was stolen was.
Okay, so the victim, I believe you said it was the roommate whose PlayStation was stolen. He indicated where the PlayStation was, and where did he say it was?
It was in his bedroom.
Okay. How many times have you spoken with the victims since then?
During my investigation, from when I was assigned the case, I really didn't have to speak to them too much besides verifying what occurred, but I'll say probably 3 times, probably 4.
Did you ever have the victims identify from the Ring camera the defendant?
No.
Or show them a photo lineup?
No, ma'am.
Did you take a look at the Ring video?
I did. It's attached also to Mark 43.
Okay, so you did submit it for evidence?
Yes.
That was my next question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in the Ring camera that you observed, what exactly did you see?
Okay, so the video of the Ring camera, it showed suspect 1, which is Mr. Sparrow, kicking the door several times.
Kicking or kick in?
Kicking, like using his foot to like.
So just kicking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, like to make entry.
Okay.
Try to attempt to.
Okay.
And he was unsuccessful. And that's when he left, went downstairs, and then, that's when I guess the locksmith was contacted.
Do you know approximately how much time elapsed between the time he was kicking the door, Mr. Sparrow, the time he was kicking the door, and the time the locksmith came up?
No, I can't recall at this moment.
Do you know if it was the same day?
No, I can't recall right now.
Okay. Did Mr. Sparrow at any point in time while he was on the Ring camera, ring a doorbell, knock on the door?
No, ma'am, just appeared to be like pacing.
Did
around.
he shout?
No, that I can't recall because I didn't hear any
Okay.
auto.
Was there any damage to the victims, any of their property?
Not that I was told, no, ma'am.
Mr. Sparrow's been charged with burglary in the first degree, theft by taking, and criminal damage to property in the second degree. Where did the criminal damage to property come from?
I would say from the locksmith having to change the victim's lock, and also from the, I guess, dent from that he caused on the door from when he attempted to kick in the door.
Okay, so there was damage to the door.
Oh yeah, there was damage. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
But I more so did the charge for the
for the actual
lock.
Okay. Are you post-certified?
I am.
Were you post-certified at the time of the incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an idea how much, and you don't have to have an exact amount, how much the door would cost to repair?
No, I can't recall.
Did the victim indicate to you that he had tried to repair the repair the door?
No, ma'am. And
Did
I
he
guess
state
that
that-
would go through maintenance, maybe for the property as well.
Did they state to you that they had repaired it?
No, not at the time. I was speaking with them.
Have you followed up with them regarding it?
No, not for the damage of the door.
Did you observe the damage to the door from either the Ring camera or, well, I guess just the Ring camera? That's all you mentioned.
Yeah, that's it. No, ma'am.
Did the technician say that there was any damage to the door?
No.
Who was the initial person who spoke to the technician?
Meaning the officer?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Officer Gunawan.
Okay. Did you speak to him regarding the incident?
No, not besides watching his body camera.
Oh, there was body camera footage there.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you watch it?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it submitted for evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know about when Mr. Sparrow was arrested?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you learned during your investigation that we haven't covered here today?
Not besides, I guess, from the detective previous to me, one of the occupants in the vehicle was the same occupant, the same suspect in my case as well. Mr. I don't know how to spell his name. I say his name, pronounce it, Enilil, Aaron and Jill. I'm saying that right.
Spell it one more time.
Okay, first name is spelled Enlil. Last name is spelled Herringel.
I'm not sure how to pronounce that either. But that individual whose name you just spelled out, that was identified as the
Second suspect seen on the Ring camera.
And how was he identified?
He was identified through his phone number as well.
Okay. Did the
technician was, I don't know if that's your question. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, did the locksmith ever identify him?
No, he could not. He was stuck between two, and one of them was the suspect. So I was not able to use that.
But Mr. Sparrow was definitely identified.
Yes, ma'am, and signed.
Okay. Again, Mr. Sparrow was charged with burglary in the first degree, theft by taking, which is a felonious theft by taking, and a felonious criminal damage to property in the second degree. Did you charge Mr. Sparrow these charges based upon what you learned in your investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing further.
Mr. Lang?
Good afternoon. Was it Detective Leonce or Leonce?
I like the first one.
Leonce,
Closest,
okay.
yes.
Good afternoon, Detective Leonce. My name is Stephen Lang. I represent Mr. Sparrow. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and follow up on some of the questions that the district attorney asked you.
No problem.
I want to start with kind of some Did you ever personally enter the apartment?
I know, no, sir.
Okay. Are you familiar with what type of safe the money that was taken was supposedly in?
No, all he described it was locked at the time. So it was
Okay,
like
so
secure.
do you know if it was a fingerprint lock? Do you know if it was a combination lock or a keypad?
No, sir.
Did the victim in this case indicate to you whether he opened the safe or?
He mentioned that it was locked when he left home.
Okay, so did he indicate whether the safe had been damaged in any way?
I
or-
don't know, sir.
Okay.
He said it was locked and secured, was his words.
But for the money to have been taken out of it, at some point it would have had to become unlocked, correct?
Yes, damaged.
Okay. And he didn't indicate to you who unlocked that safe or who opened that safe?
No.
Okay. The Ring camera footage, I want to talk about a little bit of the specifics about that. Do you remember, is it in black and color or black and white or in color?
Black and white,
Black and white. And you said there was no audio?
no audio.
Okay. Now, on that camera, do you see both suspects?
No, not together.
Do you see both of them separately at any point?
Yes, they both were separate.
Okay, so at some point on the camera, both are visible, not together, but individually, both are
Yes.
visible. Okay. You said that the suspect who appeared to be speaking with the locksmith primarily was wearing a hood at the time, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember if they were wearing anything like a COVID mask or anything to that effect?
I can't recall right now.
Okay,
The video is uploaded.
okay. But you were not able to see their hair features?
No.
Okay.
Not.
Do you remember the image quality? Was it a high quality? Was it kind of pixely? How would you characterize it?
It wasn't of good quality to identify someone for the video,
Okay,
but the standstill photo of the other suspect was clear.
and you said that was a standstill photo of the other suspect, not the one you say you later identified as Mr. Sparrow?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if at any point in this case, the PlayStation or the cash that was alleged to have been taken have been recovered?
I know.
Okay. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, anything else from the state?
Yep. Did the technician indicate which defendant went where in the apartment?
No.
Okay. And you mentioned that you did do a photo lineup that contained Mr. Sparrow and the technician pointed him out. Was that a clear photo of Mr. Sparrow?
Yes, it was from his driver's license picture.
Nothing further.
Mr. Lang?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, detective. Stay safe.
No problem. You too, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, go ahead with the argument.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm going to start with the overarching issue. First, I don't believe venue was established through questioning about the location of the apartment, nor were the victims in this case properly identified. There are two alleged victims. One was not named at all. One was named as Derek Thomas, but in review of both the police report and the warrants, that is not the name of one of the victims alleged. One of the victims is a Dedrick Thomas, but I don't believe we have proper identification of the victims either in this case. If Your Honor looks past those incidents for the criminal damage to property charge, we've had no evidence of the value of the alleged damage. In order for it to be felony criminal damage to property, we need it to be over a certain dollar threshold. We've had no dollar amount established whatsoever. For the theft by taking, Your Honor, one of the victims alleges that $5,000 in cash was taken out of a safe. However, that was a safe that, through the victim's own admission, was locked at the time he left the apartment, yet there's been no evidence that the safe was allegedly damaged in any way or how the safe would have been opened. No allegation as to who had the combination or fingerprint necessary to open that safe or the key, if it happens to be a key safe. Additionally, Your Honor, I apologize. For the Ring camera that was used, we heard through the officer's own admission that it was black and white, no audio, and pretty grainy quality. So I believe overarching in this case, there are several issues that cause me to ask the court not to find probable cause.
Right, and on position 5, is that your same argument?
Sorry, Your Honor, that was my argument for position
3.
For position 3. I'm sorry, no. Let me, hold on. Forgot I had to make an argument for both. Left the other file on the table.
That's all right, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. In that case, I'm going to be. I apologize, Your Honor. My notes are out of whack. Let me make sure I have the right notes in front of me. Yes, Your Honor. Okay. In regards to position 3, which should be position 3 was the case regarding the narcotics, correct?
Position 5.
3 was
Position
the
5,
burglary.
okay.
5 is the
My-
narcotics.
I apologize, Your Honor. For position 5, my argument would be, again, asking the court not to find probable cause. I'm going to start with for the primarily just the issue with the MDMA. It was found in a bag located behind the driver's seat. There was an occupant of the vehicle sitting in the back seat. The officer alleged that initially nobody claimed the belongings in the car. Then at one point he said that the 2 individuals in the backseat of the car said they were Mr. Sparrow's, but then rolled back on that testimony saying that's not exactly what he meant to say. We heard for the VGCSA Schedule 1 or 2 with intent to distribute. I know this may seem like quibbling over semantics. The officer stated that it was 15 grams of mushrooms that were located. I don't believe the officer ever stated what form of mushroom, whether they were psilocybin mushrooms or, for that matter, portobello mushrooms. We didn't hear any information as to whether these in fact were a drug, simply that they were mushrooms located in a fanny pack. This all stems from an alleged hand-to-hand transaction that the officer says he observed between 2 individuals outside a vehicle. However, that officer was not able to tell us what was supposedly in the transaction, what type of drug, what quantity of drug, whether any cash was exchanged. What he basically explained was he saw 2 individuals shake hands and then assumed that was a drug transaction and ran the plate. We heard from both occupants of the vehicle well, I don't want to say legal reason, the reason that Mr. Sparrow allegedly took flight from that vehicle because he had an active warrant and did not want to be detained by officers at that time. It sounds like essentially the officer decided, or the detective decided, that because Mr. Sparrow fled from the vehicle, everything in the vehicle was going to be the property of Mr. Sparrow because he ran, so that makes him look guilty. But we heard from the officer that both occupants of the vehicle gave us, again, not a legal, but justifiable reason why Mr. Sparrow would have taken flight. Based on that information, I'm asking the court not to find probable cause on all charges in that case as well.
All right. And of course, the other case was dismissed for,
The officer's failure to appear.
right. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Okay, I'm going to start with position number 3, case number 22 CP 215024. We ask that the court find probable cause in this case. The witness testimony here that she did take a look at the ring cam footage. She also stated that there was a clear picture given to the technician in this case who dealt with the defendant personally, and it sounded like for a long time, although I don't want to make that inference to the court. She did establish that both the pictures in the photo lineup were clear and that the technician was able to identify Mr. Sparrow positively. Also, in reference to venue, I did establish venue in Fulton County. I'm just going to assume Mr. Lang probably just didn't hear me. But I did ask the witness, was this an apartment complex in Fulton County? And she affirmed that it was in the affirmative in Fulton County. Based upon the fact that this technician messed with, or essentially messed with, the door to get in, that satisfies the element of a breaking to enter into the home, and items were stolen, thus satisfying burglary in the first degree and the theft by taking. For the criminal damage to property, I will concede that there was no estimate of the door done. So neither I nor Mr. Lang knows what the damage to the door could have possibly cost. That being said, I think we have made enough probable cause to establish burglary in the first degree and theft by taking for this defendant. Again, noting that he was on the ring camera as witnessed by the defendant and the technician who changed the lock and was positively ID'd. For the second case, position number 5, 22 CP 215026. I believe probable cause was found for all of the listed charges. Detective did mention that the vehicle belonged to Mr. Sparrow and that there were items in the trunk of the vehicle that were not reachable by either party who was in the car with him. Witness also testified that both Ms. Evans and Mr. Bradford multiple times denied any ownership of the other items in the car. Also, I would add that there was no testimony that stated that Mr. Sparrow fled solely because of the items in the car. In fact, the officer just noted that he did flee and that his fleeing was related to his arrest warrant, but there was no testimony stating that he fled because of the I'm sorry. I'm going to move on from that point. Also, the items found in the car, some of them are only able to be reached by Mr. Sparrow, and the officer testified that there was a hand-to-hand transaction, which is consistent with narcotic sales in this area. The firearm that was found in the trunk of the car was only accessible to Mr. Sparrow. Again, the car belonging to Mr. Sparrow, and the possession and use of drug-related objects and the marijuana were all located in the trunk of the car as well, which would have only been accessible by Mr. Sparrow, again, which is his car. Nothing further.
Your Honor, may I briefly respond?
Sure, go ahead.
I'm going to challenge the assertion that the items in the trunk are only accessible by Mr. Sparrow. We heard no testimony from the officer about interactions with the trunk at the gas station, but we did hear a statement from the officer that all three parties were allegedly initially coming from a previous location where a party had occurred. It's just as likely that while getting into that vehicle, Mr. Bradford or Miss Evans put their own backpack in the trunk containing those items. And once they got to the new party, they were going to walk around to the trunk and take those items out of the trunk. Just because it's in the trunk doesn't mean the passenger and the person in the back seat can't get those items. As soon as the vehicle stopped, they could have walked to the trunk and pulled them out themselves.
All right. So we'll start position 5, all probable cause on each count. And there's a $55,000 split bond with drug-related objects going through the jail. Pre-trial.
Yes, 10 cycles. He has 1 FTA, 1 probation violation. He appears to have a first offender out of Truitland County, and that was from 2018 for fleeing or attempting to elude a police officer. I'm not sure if that first offender was sealed or not. And nothing further.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Lang.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Sparrow is 25 years old. He's a lifelong resident of Georgia. I believe I've already updated his address, but if I haven't, it should be a Continental Colony Parkway address in Atlanta. He lives there with his children. He has 6 children, the oldest being 12 years old. He made it to the 12th grade, but didn't initially graduate. He is in GED classes. He was just not able to complete those classes prior to his arrest. There are a couple of MH diagnoses in this case that we are looking into. I have spoken with Mr. Sparrow. He has started receiving some medications at the jail, but we believe there may be further actions required. He was certified through the Job Corps in HVAC about 3 years ago. He was working in construction with the father of the mother of his children, who owns his own construction company. Based on all the information presented, the length of time in custody without these cases being indicted, these cases all originated on New Year's Eve 2022, so we're at a little over 6 months at this point. I'm asking the court to drastically say again, Your Honor?
161.
Correct. I'm asking the court to drastically reduce the bond in this case. Let me look at the current breakdown.
I think it's 10, 10, 15, UJR 20.
I would ask the court to at minimum have each bond amount, but I would ask the court to consider on count 1, a bond of $3,000, on count 2, a bond of $3,000, on count 3, a bond of $5,000, keeping the UJR jail on count 4, and then a $3,000 bond on count 5. That would total $14,000 good.
All right.
Or $14,000 split. I apologize.
All right. Ms. Patton.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would ask that bond be left the same. This defendant is entitled to a bond and has received one and is such reasonable and fair. This defendant, as noted on the calendar, has more than one open case. As such, this defendant poses a significant likelihood to reoffend. If Your Honor is inclined to lower the bond above the state's objection, we would ask that count one be no less than 7,500, count two, no less than 7,500, count three, no less than 10,000, UJR at the jail for count four, and count five, no less than 15,000.
All right. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with Shakia Evans or Curtis Bradford. You're gonna have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment, basic necessities. With employment, you have to supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working, and also to attend any inmates treatment or anything of that nature, sir, that Mr. Lang gets you into. 5,000 count one, 5,000 count two, 10,000 count three, UJR jail count four, and 15,000 for count five. 5,000, 5,000, 10,000 UJR, and 15. I went back, Madam Court Reporter. Where is it?
Yes, Judge, I'm present. Yes, Judge.
Can you do, because I wrote it down, but I'm second guessing myself. Can you search back and see if Fulton was asked in position 3?
Okay, give me 1 second. You mean regarding venue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 1 moment, Judge.
I wrote down where it was this address of the apartment.
Thanks for waiting. Oh, I'm sorry.
So on the first case, she lowered her bond from 55,000 to 35,000 with a signature bond on one of the charges. She said they're going to be on an ankle monitor, the 24-hour curfew. School. Also, any mental health treatment, we do get you a little program, or even once you get out, you decide you want to go get some kind of help or some treatment. That's a exception for your curfew as well, which means you can leave your house to go do that. One thing I'm going to tell you while we're waiting: if you ever have to leave the house while you're on an ankle monitor, call the ankle monitor company and tell them why you are leaving. Right, just so that they're not confused, they understand why you're leaving, and they can make sure it fits into one of those exceptions. Okay.
Mr. Lang, is he going to continue with his GED? Because we can add that.
He does plan to, Your Honor. Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Holmes, you just add that he can continue with his GED program. I'm not sure if it's online or in person.
It's in person, Your Honor.
Okay, yeah, he can continue with that program.
As well. I mean, if you get
Ms.
out-
Patton, are there any more officers there, and for which case?
There is for Mr. Pratt, but I did want to speak to Mr. Rhodes. Are we done with Mr. Sparrow, though?
Well, I'm just checking on that one because I've got 2 notes and they kind of conflict on, I mean, I got the address of the apartment. I scribbled something, and I'll just be honest, now I can't even read what I wrote.
I'm almost certain I said venue, but I'm happy to let the court reporter said, especially after not saying it before. That's why I'm almost certain I did it, but.
And the Mario Liggins, that was a consent. So Pratt's the last one, right?
Correct.
And I'm very well may have been speaking to my client when you asked the question.
That's fine.
I didn't have
I
it.
wrote it down. Now I've got a second guess of myself, and I'm like, I hate to do that.
Well, I know Mr. Lang is not just trying to be unnecessarily difficult on me.
I would
So
never.
I assume you have a legitimate reason for saying that.
I'm assuming your bond argument's the same because I wrote it down. I feel confident, but I'm like, okay, what? Now you got me second guessing myself, Mr. Lang.
Your Honor, my bond argument would be the same. However, I did just speak to Mr. Sparrow. I forgot to include something in my initial bond argument that I did just want to bring to the court's attention.
Okay.
While he's been in custody, Mr. Sparrow has been attacked several times by other inmates. You can see one of his arms is currently, hold up your arm for me, bandaged and wrapped in a sling. He also currently, I'm not going to touch you, but I'm going to point, has a kind of scar up above this eye. Turn your head that way slightly and lean in. I don't know if your Honor is able to see it, but right
Yes, sir.
above his eye, there is a mark. He was stabbed with a shank recently by another inmate. So I understand Your Honor understands the current dangers of the jail and the current conditions of the jail, but Mr. Sparrow seems to be one of the individuals even more affected by these conditions, as he's been the victim multiple times of attacks by other inmates.
Judge, Madam Court Reporter speaking.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have, one moment. One moment.
Because the way I wrote it
There we
down, I
go.
think she,
So at my timestamp 250, I do have where the detective did mention the apartment. She gave the address, but I do not hear the state ask if that was Fulton County. So would you like for me to?
yeah, see, I didn't, I mean, I had where she wrote the address, then I had like a line waiting so I could put my little check mark by there.
Correct.
So, yeah, I didn't have it. That's why I didn't know if I had missed it. So we'll dismiss this for lack of venue.
I'm almost certain I said it. Is there a recording of it? Like I'd be willing to put my last dollar on it.
Don't do that. You don't make enough money.
Well, that's true. But I just, after that from before, like I wouldn't have made the mistake twice.
One moment, Judge. Let me see if I can play it back.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
What we're talking about and the DA.
And sometimes it could be too, because when you,
We were probably talking at the same time.
or when you do two cases with two officers, sometimes it's like, you forget to do it because of it being two.
While the court reporter is looking, do you mind if I speak to Mr. Rhodes briefly?
That's fine. Go ahead. I'm going to step away and get some water really quick while she's looking.
Okay. Mr. Rhodes?
You would only be, at this point, we have to deal with this case. the $35,000 We're gonna wait to see what. Here for 1 second, for the case regarding burglary, we're just trying to figure out if venue was established, so the court reporter is listening to the recording.
Don't start. Don't start. I'm not gonna have the cab all over again. One second. He's gonna talk to the defendant.
Actually, I guess I can also do that. Yeah, I'm gonna do it this way so it's easier.
I'm taking, she about to talk to
Mr. Lang, while the judge is on break, I'm just gonna go. Thank you.
We're just gonna wait to figure out. So South Fulton doesn't matter, just Fulton County. So anywhere like Atlanta, South Fulton, Union City, East Point, those are all in Fulton. So while they got the address of the judge, even if they said, oh, yeah, they happen to add the Fulton County courthouse, they still have to read the address of the Fulton courthouse and say, as it's named, it's a judge, that is in. So again, same thing, like whenever cases happen in the jail, they still have to say. What I'm having an issue with right now is the address was read out. The judge has in her notes that the address was written out. They was then followed up with is that. So that's what the court this one, we're just sitting here, this obviously.
Judge Manning,
Yes, ma'am.
on Tuesday,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
gave a bond to somebody named,
Can you all hear the playback?
oh, sorry, I'll wait.
Ma'am, did you hear it? I mean,
He stepped out.
Yeah, Your Honor, one moment, the DA stepped out for a moment for a, I think, a
okay.
comfort break while we were in recess.
okay, all right, Madam DJ, what'd you say, Ms. Roberts?
You gave a bond to, his name was, I'm trying to put the email. Gentry, what's the last name, on Tuesday evening court, I believe.
Okay.
I guess he got a pretrial release bond, Danny Gentry, and they said he's not able to be released because he can't provide a phone number or email address. And he said he's not from Georgia. He don't have any information for nobody. He lives by himself.
Okay, well, I'll just, we'll talk to about that this evening then.
Okay.
And Your Honor, stroke of fate, that's actually my client, so.
Okay. All right, yeah, so we can chat about that, so we can, hopefully, maybe I'll be able to get a little bit of break for the evening start. So yeah, Mr. Lang, we'll chat about that in a sec. Did you play it back to yourself, Miss Benz? I mean,
Judge, are you able to hear the playback?
no, ma'am, but did you, no, ma'am, because you got to like share your screen and do whatever. I can't hear it. When you played it back, did you hear it, Miss Benz?
Yes, I'm able to hear. I'm able to play. I was trying to play it back for the court, but for whatever reason, it's not working. Again, I was able to hear state's question and officer's response, and I only heard the address. I did not hear the state ask if it was in Fulton County.
Yeah, and I kept like marking on that line, like missing it. So we'll dismiss that on failure to establish venue. But Mr. Sparrow, I'm sure Mr. Lang told you they could indict you on that tomorrow if they.
I'm gonna explain that to you in a second, a little and more in depth. So Your Honor, just to clarify, because I'm writing a sheet to give to Mr. Sparrow. The position regarding drugs, $35,000 split bond with the UJR.
Yes, sir.
The burglary case dismissed for venue and the gun case dismissed for failure to appear for officer.
Right.
Okay. So take that with you. That's what happened to all three of your cases, okay? That 35,000, that's it. What the judge was saying about indictment is that the state can choose to indict these cases, even though they were dismissed today. If that happens, you might get rearrested. So if you get out, get a job and save every bit of money you get. So that if you do get rearrested, you can pay that bond instead, okay?
Judge, as an announcement on Charlie Pratt and position 8, the state has made an offer for consent bond, which I can again draft for $7,500. Stay away from the incident location, which was a Little Caesars, in exchange for a waiver of a preliminary hearing, which again I'll need to have my client sign in just a moment.
Okay. It'll still be no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, all the conditions.
Yes, I can do that. Did the court receive my the consent bond that I sent for Mario Liggins?
I did, and then Ms. Holmes said, where's that? It was indicted, right, today? No. That
Yes,
was
Judge.
yeah.
That was
I
on
didn't
Section 6.
Payne, who do you need, Allison? Do you need Mr. Pratt?
Yes, I need Pratt.
Position,
Mr. Pratt?
Pratt. Position 6 was indicted.
Excuse me.
Position 6 was indicted.
Today.
Okay,
Today.
that was
While we were sitting here?
And
Great.
right, and then
Okay.
Mr. Rhodes, which one thing is because there was actually, and I obviously missed it prepping my calendar, there was a possession of a firearm, so I didn't even address that, but it was indicted, so.
Was the other case the battery indicted?
No.
Okay. Well, all right. Sure. One more time, Judge, before I try to go up to the office to print out a waiver.
I got the other one. I sent it to Miss Holmes, see if she could like did you put it, were you able to put it in the queue? Oh,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
before you go to print out the waiver, I'm sorry, my bad. What was the question about the waiver? I swear they're up there. There's a stack of them. And when I sit there, they're to my right, in the very corner of the bench.
We've been looking.
Yeah, it's just like a small stack of paper. That's all that's there. I know Mr. Cazzoli grabbed one this morning, unless he got the last one.
Unless you grabbed the whole stack and walked off.
Well, that sounds like him. Fall under here.
If you look over there, do you see a stack of papers right there in the corner?
There's no stack of papers on the bench whatsoever, Your Honor. There's
He
one
must have
holes
grabbed,
in a binder, but there's no stack of paperwork anywhere on the bench.
yeah, he must have grabbed either the last one. I'll have to get some more to put up there then. Yeah, if you just want to print one and shoot it to me.
Sure, I can do that.
Or I don't know if somebody else has one in another courtroom.
I wouldn't know. And another technical matter, it seems that in regards to Mario Liggins, we weren't able to get the waiver signed. They took Mr. Liggins back before I was able to get him to sign the waiver. I'm not sure how the court might want to address that.
Is he back downstairs or is he gone? Gone.
I'm not sure. Mario Liggins.
Position 9.
They've gone back.
Your Honor, I'd be happy to when Mr. Rhodes finds him again. I'm happy to sign off on it. Yeah, I'm not going to change my mind.
Mr. Rhodes, I mean, I don't know if you could talk to him and see if you have permission to sign on his behalf.
I mean, I could, but the only way I'd be able to do that is if I visit him at the jail later on.
I don't, can't help you.
I can do, but it would be, of
Yeah.
course, after court is adjourned.
But I mean, I can still sign it if you get it, you know.
Okay. Sure.
I mean, you're both officers of the court. I know it's not worth either one of you getting in a lot of trouble for, so I'll, nobody's trying to play games or anything. I get that. So yeah, as soon as you
Right.
get it, I'll be glad to do it. Maybe if they can't get him on a Zoom or something and you physically have to go.
I'd probably physically go. It's all right.
Okay. Yeah, as soon as you get it to me, that's fine.
Sure.
So that's Mr. That's Mr.
Pratt.
Mr. Pratt right there. All right, Mr. Pratt. So this is, let's second. 23 CP 21739, 66 days without indictment. It's robbery. They've considered a $7,500 good bond. And Charlie Pratt with no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from the incident location. And what else have you agreed to?
That was it. No, obviously, no weapons while out on bond and, no further violations of the Georgia law, but that's implied.
No ankle monitor, anything like that, right? Just no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away and $7,500.
Yep, that is a Little Caesars.
Okay. All right. Yeah. As soon as y'all get it to me, I'll be glad to sign it.
Okay, I did want to see if my officer could be dismissed. He graciously came in on his day off.
Absolutely, officer. Sorry about that. Thank you for being so patient and.
Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it.
All right. Anything else?
All righty.
Judge,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have the names written down for, to have no further contact with, I can't find the names in the warrants at the moment.
On which case?
But 5, position 5.
That's the district attorney's office on the third floor. Is that where they've been telling you to go?
Shakia, I just kind of, is it SHIKIA or SHAKIA? Evans, Curtis Bradford.
One moment, Your Honor. I should be able to grab the police report out of my file and get you that name.
Okay, thank you. I just kind of guessed how to spell it, but I'm the worst.
Oh, you know, it's a different.
Thank you.
The clerk's office.
On what?
The other buildings.
Yeah, criminal clerk's office is on the 5th floor of the other building. The second you come out of the elevator, it's right in front of you. It says clerk's office, criminal division on the doors. Also, Your Honor, for the Danny Gentry matter we were talking about, I'm gonna log on like 15 minutes early for the night court calendar. I don't have that file with me, so I'm not gonna have the answer to whatever question may have been being asked.
So what did they need, Ms. Holmes? Phone number, email? They need contact info. He says he doesn't have.
I might have those in his file, but again, I just don't have that in front of me at the moment.
Okay.
We were looking for the spelling of Shakia Evans, right?
Yes,
Correct.
ma'am.
One moment. It is spelled in the warrants as SHEKIYAH.
I was way off.
EVANS.
I was way off, sorry.
Yes. And then it was Curtis Bradford, correct?
Yes, both would be the common spelling of those names.
Thank you.
All right, y'all need anything else, or is that we're down till 5?
That's it, Judge.
All right, we're down till 5. See you guys shortly. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Not me, thank God.
Oh.
It's been
Have a good
wonderful
evening.
though with you today.